5:34.
Are you recording?
All right, we'll do that again.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so let's call the ACES meeting to order here. It's 5:34 on March 13th. And let's go ahead and move on the roll call.
All right, Jim Zarsky.
Here.
Michelle Gazera. Here. Lisa.
Here, Lisa Barnes.
Lisa Barnes. I'm like, I know your last name and I'm blanking on it. Sorry, thank you. Miles Hoffman.
Here.
James Lester.
Here.
And then Sarah will be late, and then Nikki and Dawn will not be here.
All right. So next is everybody get a chance to look over the agenda, and if you did, any comments on it? If not, I guess we'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as published.
All right, anybody want to second that? All right. Lisa seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Online? Yes, aye. All right. No, I don't think there's any nays.
No.
All right, I guess the agenda is approved. All right, so now we're moving on to public comment.
There's no one online.
Okay. We're moving fast, all right. All right, so now I guess we're on to updates by the town, well, the liaison's not here, so we will jump to you, Alexis.
Great, and I will share what I thought was the agenda, but really is my update again here, so people online can see it too. So update on a couple things. We did get awarded, we applied for a Resource Central grant essentially to remove turf from part of Founders Park, right by the playground on the south side there. And essentially do kind of a demonstration garden. It's based on Garden in a Box, so it'll be similar to what people could get themselves. And it's gonna be about 2,000 square feet, where they're gonna remove the turf for us, they're gonna put in the landscaping for us, and we just had to do an in-kind match of redoing the irrigation, which is awesome.
2,000 square feet or 200 square feet?
2,000.
So, wow,
It's a bit.
20,
Yeah.
yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, so that's very exciting, and it might be up to 2,500. That's kind of the space they're given, and then they can kind of work within that, so. That's really exciting, and that'll happen this summer.
Awesome.
Some of you may have tuned in to the council meeting on Monday. I know Michelle is nodding because she did. We had a lot of discussion on the new operations and maintenance building that is being proposed and is in the design phase right now. So I've been working a lot with them on the sustainability possibilities. It is a maintenance facility, so part of it is office and part of it is these giant bays for the big work trucks. So on the office side, super easy, super straightforward. Absolutely, we're electrifying, we're doing heat pumps, we're doing all of that. And we are not going to pay for the LEED certification because we were quoted about $300,000 just for the certification piece, which is pretty expensive. But we are going to meet those same standards. So they're going to be keeping track of the points that we would get had we gone that direction. And we will be at LEED certified. And then as soon as we add solar, it will be a solar ready building. That will be after construction that we look to do that. Then it would be LEED silver. So that's really exciting. I do really appreciate Council Member Foster and Shaw. They really advocated hard for sustainability pieces, which is really wonderful. We are at this point, we're still exploring what it might cost to electrify the Bayside, but we're not sure the technology is quite there for some of the specific pieces they're looking at. So we haven't given up on that, but there might be significant project delays and costs and technology issues. So it may be natural gas on that side, but that wouldn't be the primary. There's no cooling on that side. It would just be for heating in the winter when they're working on the trucks there. So it's not going to be the primary part of the building's energy use, but pretty pleased with, I think, ultimately where council has directed us to, how the public works team has worked with me on this. So that's moving forward.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think you all are very aware that the new waste service starts on the 31st. So that is coming up. The week of the 24th is going to be a little chaotic. So that is when Waste Connections will be picking up their bins, Republic will be dropping off their bins, but it's gonna be kind of staggered throughout that week, so. We'll do our best to work with them, to let people know if we know more by neighborhood, but just know. Hopefully, it's not gonna be too windy or snowy, hopefully, they're not gonna blow around too much, we'll just have to kind of adapt as it goes. And until Monday, we do have a form for people who are on spring break or anything else. Who need to request a delay, so it is possible, we obviously need to give our contractor lead time, to be able to accommodate people, but we have had some people fill that out and that will be open through the end of the day on Monday. And so I linked that in my update in case you want to direct people. I have a QR code for that for the event on Saturday. Because we will be talking to presumably a lot of people about this. And I ordered 100 of those silver compost caddies that ACES liked the most last time. So we're getting those brought up here tomorrow, so we can hand them out on Saturday. And it should be a really good event with free food and free drinks and, you know, Green Star Schools, Kim from BBSD is tabling for, you know, just for fun. There's gonna be some art stuff happening inside that I think is free for people to participate in, so it should be a fun family event. I did wanna let people know, I think I said 12 to 2 last time, it's actually 11 to 1, so if you marked your calendars, just want you to know that. And then my last update is that there is one potential ACES candidate. It was going to be on Monday's agenda for the board to interview them, but that agenda was super packed. So they ended up bumping it and they will interview them on the April 14th meeting.
And then they're gonna post that video and then we need to. Do they want our blessing? I feel like that happened last time.
I think I still need to follow up with Michaela on the process, but I think that the new method is she is going to send it to ACES. It'll be available. You could watch it on your own as well, but I think that it is going to be like, if you pass feedback to Michaela, she can pass feedback to council
Was that before or after the interview?
after the interview.
After the.
Are we allowed to know who this is?
I don't remember their name. It will be publicly available. It's not like, I'm not trying to keep it a secret.
You know,
On purpose. It'll be on the agenda.
Agenda.
I don't remember. He reached out to me. It's a gentleman. I'm not sure how he found out about it, but he reached out to me a while ago and was just very enthusiastic about ACES. So hopefully they'll be a good candidate.
Awesome, that's great.
Alexis, real quick, for the touch truck event, do you want us to publicize the caddies? I'm wondering if, I have no idea how many people are going to show up, actually, to be honest. But do you want me to put it out on social that the first 100 first 100 residents to come will be given a caddy, that type of thing?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I think the free food, the compost caddies, happy to give them all away this time. If we do give them all away, that might mean that ACES in the future, if this is successful, something people want, that comes out of the ACES budget if we want to buy more, but I think it'll be a great test of if people want this, and if you want to publicize that, I think that's great.
I will be
Okay.
super excited if we gave them all away.
Me too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And they don't have to go to my office then.
Exactly, less space for you. The other question is, this is the first, at least I've seen the delivery delay form. And I've been trying to track these emails. Is that another thing that you want to be put out widely, or is that more like a custom? Like, I know you don't want people to delay if they don't have to, so like.
Yeah, so it's one of those things it was in the town email earlier this week. It was a long email. I did email all of the HOAs who are impacted individually, to let them know specifically that deadline. It's kind of one of those things where we want people who really need to know it to know, but we also don't want, 200 people to opt into that because it's gonna make it really difficult for the trash companies. So I think, my boss at least was leaning towards not screaming that from the rooftops, but of course we want people to know about that. And I know, Councilmember Shaw shared it on the Sagamore Slack, and it's definitely out there in various ways. So I have no problem with you sharing it because of course I want people to know, but I would rather you promote the compost caddies first and that event over that, I guess.
I'll put that as a byline of my post.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And Monday is the deadline, end of the day, just to be clear. And then, yeah, I think that's it.
Oops. giving feedback to the town on the new OVA facility, like they're building with another treatment plant.
No, and I'm just, wait, oh,
Yeah, they don't have this facility.
you mean like which?
From a
consultant?
sustainability standpoint, like who, since we're not paying for someone to do lead or any of that kind of stuff, like is
It's
there?
the consultant company, and I can't remember what they're called right up, and you can watch, they introduced themselves right at the start of their presentation on Monday. But a lot of it's me,
It is.
and then they're doing the technical side of it, keeping track of those lead points, so they do have experience with that.
The consulting companies.
A consulting company, yeah, so it's up to the
Who is the
contractors.
consultant company?
I can't remember right off the
What's
top
their
of my head.
services or role?
It's a design build, so there's a couple different, there's like a main contractor and then subcontractors. And so they're designing it, including all the electrical and all of that, and then they're actually building it as well.
Okay.
So I'm happy to find that, or if you look in the memo, it's all in there.
I can talk with you on the side.
Sure.
I've dealt with a lot of these maintenance types of facilities, fleet facilities, and trying to electrify them can be challenging.
Yeah.
And, I think there's some things they can maybe do ahead of time that can make it easier to electrify down the road.
We are future proofing, we're doing a lot of that for like panel sizing and like running conduit and various things like
Yeah.
that, but you and I should just talk.
Yeah, we
about
can
this.
I don't want to take any
Yeah.
time away from the meeting, but yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope. That's it.
Great. And then, yeah, no Jen, so, all right, so we move on to discussion items. I guess, keep on going. It's
Still me.
you. Still you, budget,
Okay.
budget presentation.
I am going to share my screen here. All right, so you get this, you can see, so normally we don't really start talking about budget until the next meeting, but because we had a shorter agenda this meeting, and it usually takes a couple meetings for everyone to wrap their heads around this, I just wanted to give the general presentation and then have a very brief discussion on how, ACES would like to be engaged on this topic. So really this is a refresher. It's gonna look familiar. It's not very different from the last couple of years, but I know it's been a while since we've talked about it, or maybe it feels like we never stopped talking about it. But I'll just go through basic overview here. How does it work? What are the different buckets? What do we pay for this year? And how do we kind of engage? So we operate on a January through December calendar fiscal year. That means that, we start talking about it, feels like we're always talking about it. We go through this process typically in the later spring with ACES and others to kind of get that feedback. And then starting really in like May to June is when we bring it and have a whole internal staff process. And then in the fall, it goes to the town council to finalize. I had 55 million as the total town budget. That was from last year. I assume it hasn't changed a lot. And that is like the general fund. So that goes to all sorts of things, like all sorts of operating, everything that the town does, right? And then sustainability, we have our own dedicated fund that comes from the general fund. But we also have a couple different buckets, including like the water utility. They help pay for our water conservation stuff. The ACES budget, you all pay for things. And then CIP projects, some of that now will come from the bond measure. Those are like those big construction projects. We of course also regularly apply for all sorts of grant funding. We can't do it all from the general fund, nor would we want to. And so that includes the Boulder County Sustainability Grant that we've talked a lot about. Any questions on just the really high level? Okay, great. Capital improvement, like I said, those are like those larger one-time capital investments. So that's if we're going to put solar on a building, if we're doing electrification upgrades, if we're paying for EV chargers, if we're redoing Rock Creek Parkway, changing the medians there, those like big dollar amounts that are kind of one-time projects come out of this particular fund. And we kind of plan over the 5 years because these are expensive projects. So like the pools fall under that as well. These are expensive projects. We need to kind of plan it out over time. We can't pay for everything in 1 year. But it's not official until it's approved every year. So the only thing we have in it right now is we do have 50,000 in there as an electrification grant match so that we can hopefully expand on those dollars. So we did apply for that, public building electrification grant through Colorado Energy Office. We didn't get that, but this would have been our match. And then we're continuing to look at various things, including maybe for the pools now of how we can leverage this for some of those pieces. So that's what we have in there currently. Questions?
If we don't use that this year, does it just it's gone?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, the money still exists, right?
Right, but
But we don't get to
portion
portion
it, right?
over pieces. And so that is the tricky thing about putting grant dollars in there is you're never guaranteed to get them or be able to use them. But electrification is really expensive, as you all know, particularly when you're retrofitting things. So we wanted to make sure that we had something we could do something with.
Alexis, so we did not get the grant that we went after for the building, but you said that this might go towards the pools. Is that towards like sustainability of the pools or just like into pool fund piles?
Sorry, thank you for that question. No, it would be specifically for electrification. So when a
Okay.
budget item is written a certain way, you can't just take it and make it for something else. So it wouldn't get absorbed into the general pool project. It would be for like EV charging at the pool or electrification building. And specifically, again, hoping to leverage this into a larger dollar amount through some sort of grant. And as you know, everything's really competitive right now because there's less opportunities and the federal landscape is a little wonky. But that's not stopping us from trying.
Does the town of Superior have a fleet to electrify outside of the Teslas?
So we're still looking at some things. There is like the Ranger vehicle, which is a Jeep right now. There's some like size constraints because it has to drive on trails and through certain areas. So it's a little more technical. Like the Teslas are the ones that are the most like any vehicle would work. There is a public works pool car as well. That one's doesn't have as many technical specifications on it. It's not due for upgrading yet. And then most of the other ones are like the F-250s that need to be able to plow and do other things. That are a little harder to electrify. So it's not that we're not looking at these things. It's just, we don't have a very large fleet of vehicles.
Right.
Bigger
Yeah, no, there's a Fleet Zero program through Charge Ahead through CEO also. So it's like if you needed to put in charger infrastructure for the fleet, but it sounds like it's more like it would be better for like Charge Ahead for public charging.
Yeah, and so for the fleet, we are building a level 3 charging station as part of that operations and maintenance facility, knowing that, we would like those vehicles that are appropriate for that to be able to charge and charge quickly, because when you're talking about, that particular fleet usage, they can't be sitting for, the amount of time it takes to fully charge a vehicle. So we are planning for a fleet as well. It's just, we'd like the technology to continue to get there for that power in terms of trucks being able to do things like plow.
Yep.
All right, and then water utility, that's like all the money that's collected when you pay your water bills, right? And most of that goes towards, maintaining our water treatment and wastewater treatment plant and all the wonderful things that they do so we can have clean water and, all of that. But we do have a little bit of that budget that they put towards water conservation. So that funds both our Resource Central programming and it funds our water efficiency rebate that we have through the town. About 26,000 of that is Resource Central, and we did add this year a smart control clock installation program for kind of like graduates of Slow the Flow. So a lot of these programs have been around a really long time. I don't know if there's quite the demand there once was, because I think a lot of people have done them. So we still have all those same programs, including lawn removal, garden in a box.
Do you have the change out kit from the spray heads to the drip irrigation? Does that still exist?
So you can get a rebate for that through the town rebate program.
Okay. You get a
Resource Central doesn't have a program for that, but we added this one this year, and people have to go through Slow the Flow to like optimize their sprinklers first. And so they could do that in the same season and then get this smart control clock, but we're also kind of advertising it for people who maybe have done this before. And it has a lot more of that like weather sensing and
Oh,
technology.
it does have the
content.
weather sensing. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay.
So if the HOA is taking care of your irrigation system, like in our
Yeah.
neighborhood, would the HOA's contractor, LMI, need to go through slow the flow, or who goes through that?
So Slow the Flow is specifically for residents, but Resource Central does have a commercial level program that
Oh.
HOAs can take advantage of.
Okay, that's right.
But yes, it would. I'm not exactly, I think like the owner of the property who's responsible would have to like sign up for it and then designate their contractor to like help facilitate that process would be my guess.
But I think your neighborhood would be a prime candidate for this,
Yeah,
this program
We
to
have
do slow
lots.
this, but you have lots of irrigation.
yeah,
So I think that
We do.
would be great to see if folks in your neighborhood want to go, have gone through slow the flow and to get this, especially with the weather sensing. Nothing's worse when it's raining and we see this.
I know
automatic
some
sprinkler.
of our neighbors have put that in themselves, they just
Yeah.
bought their own.
Mhm.
Yeah, the technology is pretty available.
So they have done that, but I've also noticed their lawns are being
Irrigated a lot.
irrigated a lot more than ours.
Yeah.
Ours is just on a timer. Cause we haven't bought the smart one.
Yeah.
But
So they
yeah,
look at-
they get just so much water being used.
Because I just think overall, we just over irrigate.
It's ridiculous.
And it's hard, you know, I've gone through slow the flow personally, and then I haven't updated it, but I learned a lot from that program, but I would personally love a refresher. And I would just even watching somebody else then do it to somebody else's yard would be enough refresher for me. I don't have to come back to do my yard, but I do see so many people in Rock Creek with water coming on at 2 PM, 10 AM, 2 PM, and it's just rolling down the street.
Yeah,
Yep.
I see
And
that.
I've knocked on their door and said, here, try this, this is saving money. But again, our water is also cheap, so if you have a household of 2 people in that circumstance, they're still under the 7,000 gallon, beginning benchmark that you get charged for. So,
And council may decide to look at those, that may be something that comes up in budget, it's something that council member Shaw has brought up before. So we'll see, 'cause certainly that's part of it as well.
Hey, you made it.
Welcome, we're just talking budget,
Talking
everyone's
budget.
favorite topic. So another bucket is the ACES budget, which you all are very familiar with. It's $5,000 that you get annually. The ACES can decide whatever you all want to spend on, which is wonderful because you have flexibility there. So you spend on things like home energy squad visits in the past. It's how we bought all the different swag, the utensil kits and the bento boxes and all that good stuff. And it's great for like those small purchases or projects that come up that we may not have been aware of at the beginning of the year or during this budget process that happens quite long before we're actually spending that money. All right, so I wanted to walk really quickly through, we have in the 2025 sustainability budget this year. Again, just as a refresher.
This is what was approved. right?
This is what's approved, this is what my budget is this year. So yeah, this is what's currently in there, and I tried to make some notes of if anything changed from the previous year. So by far the biggest piece is paying our portion of the county hazardous waste facility. So that's based on population and usage. So ours is lower than a lot of our neighbors, but it's still a really significant amount, as you can see. And that amount comes directly from the county. I don't control what that amount is.
do we know the number of households that if you take that divide by the number of households? Do we have that?
We do
Or
have
can we
that.
get that
I can
number?
get you that. Yeah, we have that. They give us a whole report at the end of the year. It's relatively expensive because you
Yeah.
can imagine it's
Very
expensive to manage hazardous waste.
But it's so important to do this. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I see, especially when they're moving out, that everything is thrown in their trash bin and that just in case. So I think we are lucky to have this facility in our county. I think that's a very reasonable fee. And when you cost it out per household, I think it's even more reasonable because many counties don't have this.
Yeah, and we get the usage numbers and everything else, and it is based on that. But yeah, that's the largest bucket. So as you all know, it was an ACES suggested item to have the electrification rebates. Those are a new piece that happened this year that we just launched last month. So we've already had a couple come through, but obviously we still have a really nice pool of money to pull from. So please do promote those to your neighbors.
Is there town superior or is that with Pace?
Those are tax credits. So PACE is commercial. These are residential rebates.
Okay.
And these are through Energy Smart. So they're still through the county and they stack with
There's
other
no
county.
county.
Correct. So
Okay.
through the county, but you can still get Boulder County rebates. It stacks with those and it stacks with any state, federal,
Yep.
Excel rebates, all of that. The $15,000 for town zero waste event support, that's kind of what Michaela was talking about for bringing back the green teams. That's how we brought back reusables last year. She purchased some bins, so we have our own ones that are not those cardboard bins anymore. So that's been really, really helpful for moving our events further towards zero waste. But that's obviously a cost that we continue to pay every year because it supports, bringing in the reusables and the support for those events. The hard to recycle event is $12,000. That went up just a tiny bit because event costs keep going up, for the labor and the recycling of those materials. The sustainability dashboard is $8,000. All of our EcoCycle programming, so the locker clean out, field trips, Green Star Schools, continuing that. We put our Boulder County matching funds in there because that's a almost guaranteed grant. There's no such thing as guaranteed, but we have that in there just so we have that match every year. We increased the municipal natural gas offsets after that ACES discussion last year. It was 3,000, it went up to 5,300, so we can buy that higher quality offset. $5,000 for green business engagement. So we launched those zero waste coupons last year. But we still have some flexibility. We haven't had a lot of uptake on that. So I think that'll be something we kind of continue to discuss with ACES if you have ideas. Outreach and engagement materials, we have a lot of events now, as you all know. So that's something that, as we've done videos and we've created custom materials, all sorts of things helps fund that. And ACES recommended increasing that last year. And then Ecotoberfest, we had 4,000 for that. We're kind of pivoting that event a little bit, as you all know. But I think we'll just, at the end of this year, before this next budget cycle, we'll look at kind of all the different events we do, because we've expanded so much what we do specific for sustainability that we put on and pay for ourselves.
Great, that's a lot.
It's a lot, and I tried to make it manageable.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? All right, budget ideas. So one thing I want to put out there just to consider, again, we're just starting to talk about this. We'll have many more meetings to discuss this with ACES, and kind of, part of this end here is how do you want to be engaged in this process? One thing I think we at least need to start talking about is, we started the sustainability plan in 2021, be 2026 next year. These plans have about a 5-year shelf life or so. We have done a lot of the actions, and particularly the low to medium hanging fruit actions. A lot of our goals are further out, like 2030, 2050, those other things. So it's not that we've met all of our goals with this, but I think that we have achieved really significant progress in such a way that I think we at least want to have the conversation about, do we consider, because we'd want to do a lot of engagement, we want to, do a whole process. Do we want to consider starting the update of this next year? And I would definitely want to match town dollars with our Boulder County Sustainability Grant. I think that's, really prime usage of that dollar amount to offset some of those costs. If we needed to, we could potentially split it over 2 years. But that's one thing that I'm considering that I wanted to just bring up with ACES.
I'm 100% supportive of revisiting our sustainability action plan. Because when I share it with folks like Morgus and other partners in our town, there are things that we no longer really, because we've either accomplished it or we've morphed the goal to something more impactful. And so I think it's really helpful. And when you do that process, we engage the whole community. When we did that, we had the meetings in the Longs Peaks room. We had people put their Post-its on what ideas they want. So it's really an also an opportunity to gauge where the public is in their sustainability. Once we've done the zero waste contracts for a portion of the town, I think the knowledge has gone up a little bit, so I would really support going down that road.
I agree. It's very important to keep that up to date, and I think after trying to implement it, we've learned a lot. And, you know, we have the dashboard, which is great, but there's so many goals in that, it's a little overwhelming.
Well, and I think, you know, that when we launched this first one, we didn't have the drive for residential electrification like we have right now, and the funding to support it. And I think that if we do that stakeholder engagement process to lead into this, it can also help, because during this next 5 years is when Rock Creek will fold in to the waste contract. We can turn this into a positive engagement with those residents that maybe are more hesitant today, by providing more support in the next round. So yeah, I'm game for that too.
So if you want to hear my blunt opinion of sustainability action plans, they're fluffy. There's no sustainability action plan police that are gonna come after you if you don't meet the plan.
It's Mike Foster. That's true.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true. And maybe Neil said, hold them to.
We appreciate that.
Okay, touche. Good point. But I think the part that can help council and maybe help the town too is putting dollar signs to meeting some of these goals. And that's the part that that's fluffy. It's just nice words, nice pictures of the flowers and the trees, and we're gonna do all this stuff.
Well, that part's
But-
fluffy, but the goals aren't fluffy.
But
Goals are
a lot of goals
You
require,
gotta have goals.
but they require investment, is my point. And so we can
They
put,
have the dollar signs next to them, like,
I mean real dollars.
Real dollars.
I mean
You need
millions of
actual
dollars.
dollars.
I mean real dollars. I mean like a decarbonization roadmap. And that's the thing that I'm actually starting to, and as you guys know, I do this work professionally. That's where I'm seeing municipalities and cities goes. They want what they call a decarbonization roadmap. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That says, okay, we want to get from here to here with emissions. Here's the steps and the costs to get there. And this is the investment we need to make. And you actually have, help with this, a firm that does this kind of work. And then they price this stuff up, and it allows the council to actually start budgeting for this stuff.
Would you see the decarbonization as part of the energy pillar in the sustainability action plan?
Yeah, it'd be primarily energy, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically converting scope 1 to scope 2 emissions and then offsetting with renewables. But I think right now everybody's shooting for the 2050 target, because that's what Excel has publicly said, that the grid will be kind of clean by then. So then why put in a bunch of renewables when eventually you're gonna turn those into carbon positive renewables, because the Excel is gonna offset it for you. So again, that's my 2 cents.
so when you say that, you mean if we put solar on our house, that's gonna be a negative?
No, that's gonna be a positive. I mean,
So what do you mean, put a bunch of renewables in and it's a negative?
well, because you have 2 lines coming together. You have the cleanliness of the grid going this way. You're trying to offset an area of the curve on that, but then once the grid is clean, now in theory, your whole house is all electric, and it's completely clean based off of the scope 2 emissions. Wait, I'm getting that mixed up. Yeah, the scope 2 emissions are gone.
I doubt that would be zero though.
But
So I don't want to spin this off into other topics, but I'm talking about big picture with that.
I think
Not
that's a good
doing the
idea.
sustainability action plan. I think it needs a facelift, but I think it needs a facelift with an attachment. And now these are the costs to get to some of these goals
and I
and
agree
the
with you.
investment needed.
If we do the decarbonization plan as the climate pillar
Yeah,
in sustainability action plan 2.0,
yeah,
I agree, that's where we're going.
yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and we have some of we have the costs from what Louisville did for their decarbonization plan, and I know that they're still developing and rolling out their community plan as to what that looks like. I think the value here is less the specific goals for a climate action plan, less specifically the goals, but more about the engagement side and getting more people involved and excited about this. I totally do agree, Jim, that if we can finance a true decarbonization pillar within the climate action plan, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But I think there is value to building an entire plan that goes beyond energy that engages residents, because quite frankly, what residents feel is waste more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I think it's a both and, but I agree with you that goals are fluffy unless you put dollars and, hard figures on them.
Yeah. So I'm not discounting it. I'm not saying we shouldn't revise it, but I think we should be thinking about how to put a backbone to it.
How long does it take? I mean, would you estimate to update it?
I mean, I think it depends, like if we were doing a decarbonization plan, that's a lot more intense. I mean, you could probably do it in like a 6-month process. But I think it depends on the depth, and part of that is the dollar amount, like how many rounds of public engagement do you do? I think we have a solid basis to work from with the plan, but there is a lot to update, and so.
Not that everything's around the waste contract, but
Sure,
the timing of an update to that and community engagement
yeah,
that's always paired with some education just by the sheer fact that you're talking about stuff.
yeah,
So it might be just timely for people to be brought into the sustainability plan more. If they weren't paying attention in 2020, 2021.
right,
Very like COVID.
yeah.
And like, so there might be some value to just also socializing it more in the update. So I think there's some people that don't know that we have one, or that we make decisions based on what's in this. So I think it's great. Not that you're the advisory board, but I'm just seeing ways that it could be used if the process is happening.
Yes.
That would be helpful to educate people.
Well, that would be part of the process. Like this was the first one that Superior ever had. It was done in-house. It was basically her whole job in combination with ACES was just like putting together this plan. And I think it's wonderful for that. But I think in a lot of ways we have outgrown it at this point, and there are some opportunities, particularly with the engagement side. But it's interesting to think about the other kind of milestones we might want to try.
So you didn't use a consultant at all?
They didn't. This predated me. No,
We did.
which is the only plan I have ever seen that didn't use the consultant
I
on.
used a consultant to put the book together,
Yes, the design.
the graphics, but not the process of the
Oh,
community
really?
engagement. No,
Yeah.
we used in-house. And I think for the first start, that was plenty enough because again, as Miles pointed out and you pointed out, community engagement is really important, and you get your we get our foot in the door with electrification, with the stock or the fleet in our town, with this big waste contract. But now that we've gotten that engagement, getting Green Star schools, we didn't even have our kids educated on that. Now that we've made those benchmarks, we've got now a population that's more interested. And to Jim's point, that decarbonization plan, you put that backbone in, I think
If you're
people.
gonna do that, you need a consultant though.
You definitely
I mean,
need a
that's
consultant.
quite a bit of money.
And I think we're ready, right, we are ready, either this year or next year, we are kind of getting there. I do like the fact that Louisville is a step ahead of us. We have gained a lot by having our larger cities neighboring next door going 2 steps ahead of us. We learn from them, and I don't ever, think that we would go at something like this alone. You have so much regional help.
Yeah.
And you really, I know, rely on the network of our neighboring towns to help pull Superior along into these goals. And so there's a lot to learn from our neighbors that we don't have to be the first one, but we don't want to be left behind.
Sure.
So we're climbing our steps.
So I just wanted to throw this idea out there, and then what I really wanted to ask is, how does ACES want to be engaged in this process? Because as you may recall, I tried a new process last time and ACES did not like it. And it didn't work very
Filled out
well.
the wrong form.
You filled out the wrong
Right.
All
form.
my ideas were in the old.
I think Miles didn't like that you couldn't see other people's stuff. Like, I'm not married to that idea at all. But knowing like we do have a limited pool of even potential budget, right? Like we're competing with, there's a lot of big projects the town's trying to accomplish right now, whether it's redoing Rock Creek Parkway or redoing 2 pools. Like there's a lot of constraints on our budget in a time that the town is not particularly flush with cash. I guess I would say there's still a lot, we're recovering from Marshall Fire and other things. So I think we want to be really narrow and focused in our asks and not ask for the moon and not ask for 10 things. So I just wanted to kind of turn it over to ACES on how you would
I
like
would
to be
suggest a
engaged.
brainstorming where we put all ideas, stupid
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
stupid, up on a board
Mhm.
and then have discussion. And then decide as a group which ones are the best ideas.
So we've done that though, and the problem is getting from the brainstorm and all the ideas to like a
We need
whittling
to
it
do
down.
that at a meeting.
Wait,
We can't do that individually, and that's what didn't work, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that could be a working group thing where we.
Or
come
working
to you-
session, we're all
Well, we'll
included,
talk about it.
Sure.
Maybe we
yeah.
come up with our ideas,
Or
and maybe
develop
the next
a meeting
month,
to
we get it down to our short list of 5 or 6, and then we bring that to the ACES meeting. or something.
Can I ask a favor for your knowledge of
Yeah,
decarbonization? It's really important. I know your knowledge of greenhouse gas inventories is also equally valuable. I would love to see a decarbonization 101 given by you to us
Okay, yeah.
to understand what the stages are. Maybe we can't fund a big thing, maybe we fund a beginning stage, but I think that would help us focus us. To your point, we know all the competition for money, and we usually gather around an important goal. And I think with more education of our members, I think that will happen.
It'd also be useful to know how much Louisville spent on their decarbonization.
$350,000, a lot,
Yeah,
but they have a lot of facilities too,
But
so this,
still.
but it's so,
it's
Yeah.
gonna be expensive.
and I think that's the
To
tricky thing.
consult
Just a
for that.
plan is
Not
expensive
cheap.
and then a decarbonization plan is a
Well, then
lot
what was the price to execute the whole thing?
to execute. Oh, like 14 million,
Yeah, to decarbonize.
yeah.
And
it's a
that's
lot.
just town facilities, that doesn't include
Correct.
residents or
Absolutely.
commercial businesses.
But yeah,
But you're right, that's the background.
That's where the rubber meets the road, like, that's what I'm saying, like, we can say all we want in the sustainability action plan, but we get to 2049 and we wonder why we haven't done anything. It's-
But I'd like to see the inventory and see how much is the town facilities versus all the residences, because we need to focus on whatever's the greatest bang for the buck. Of course, we don't have control over all the residences.
right.
Well,
We have some,
there's something
We can
called energy
influence.
ordinance. I mean, all towns around us are doing energy ordinances,
or
so what's the
and you can
appetite?
also influence through rebates and other.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there are energy ordinances, there's the state one for all buildings over 50,000 square feet, City of Boulder has one for the commercial businesses. I mean, I don't think there's anything for the residential level, I don't think there's been ordinances for that, but what's the
There is-
town's appetite to do that?
We should look at where is our greenhouse gas coming from.
So we're redoing our inventory this year, so I
Okay.
think that'll set us up nicely for.
Yeah.
And we're
And
doing
then
that
we can-
in-house ourselves, which is a little more unusual, but we're gonna go through the process and do it.
Good.
Good, so I think we can
Then you
have,
can see where.
It's natural gas and transportation, that's where it's coming from, because electricity is getting cleaner over time. So
So
that's gonna continue to come down for Excel goals.
would it be helpful to our town council to see the sustainability long game timeline as to what should come first, what we learn from our greenhouse gas inventory, and then what can we tackle? Because sustainability is a long game. It is not.
I'm sure, that would be helpful. With Mike and Neil being in the weeds on it and having a full understanding, I think. Well, I'll speak for myself, but it would be helpful to me, because this is very much not in the field that I have any depth of knowledge in, so understanding the long game would be helpful. I also immediately thought of, just the equity, like when you're talking about energy, ordinances, it makes immediately, I was like, some people can't afford to do some of the things that we would prefer that they would do, and how do we mitigate that? But also, I literally just landed from DC today and meeting with federal, like John Goose and, Jason Crow, even though not our district, but just state, level or federal level. And their feedback was just to prepare for a recession and doubling of unemployment numbers and just the timeliness of
Yeah, of course.
potential things that would require additional costs.
Yeah.
Just keeping that in mind and because we're so heavily saturated with the research and science and federal workers in our specific community and here, I'm a little just terrified of additional and I know we've gotten a lot of the low hanging fruit already, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so, but I think there should be like full planning ahead, but just knowing the consideration that there might be a
People
dip here.
spend.
And then
Yeah.
it takes some time to like get them up to like the pace that you wanna see. I don't know.
Oh
I don't know.
gosh, that's disgrace. That's
Yeah,
not surprising, but it's.
it's the bummer.
Depressing.
It's just, it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that Joe had like some magic. I mean, they're working on things, but for helping reinstate jobs for people.
Yeah.
Well, there was a federal judge that came through today. I don't know if you saw that headline.
Yeah, a lot of people are
That
getting
said they
their
had
jobs.
sent back to work.
I didn't see that yet.
Yeah, it was a San Francisco judge,
Okay.
just got posted today.
Yeah, I got off the flight at like 3.
Yeah, you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming here.
And for championing our messages in our town.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah, and he was already knowing, like, he was very, he mentioned our town several times and just, because there were Longmont, Boulder, Commerce City, Centennial, like there was a lot of folks from different cities. And he referenced Superior and Louisville several times of being a high concern for him because of how many people are working even from home or grant funded or just all of the research and that's here. He knows it's gonna be a big hit for us.
To that point, when we presented our budget, we approved more grants for local people. And then, so we do have an opportunity this year to get people. We don't know if the funding will be there the year after. But I think having that resiliency plan
Yeah.
maybe is part of our sustainability conversation.
So resilience is working on, or we do have it.
Yeah.
The disaster preparedness team is working on their own resiliency plans and other pieces that, again, didn't exist when we started this plan. So
Yeah.
like, how do we weave, the transportation plan's been updated, like all of these things, how would we weave them together? But I do really appreciate that point. I think we have a lot of ideas in this room and enthusiasm, and I love that, but also just thinking about the context that we're working within. And also that we have added a lot, like we've added a lot of events and other things, which I think really are great for our community, but the staff workload in terms of, we have to think about all of these pieces of, what can we manage and everything else. So I think we can have a brainstorm discussion, and then I would love ACES to help me like wrangle it down really
I would say,
seriously.
one of the things I used to use is this.
No,
As a
it's so
dad,
helpful.
We used to use in my company is a SWOT analysis.
Sure.
What are the opportunities? So, and it's not exactly the same, but you could look at, what are the pros and cons of each of these ideas, and then, look at it rationally and say, okay, here's the biggest bang for our buck is these 5 things, or these 3 things, these 1 thing.
I'm a big fan when things are, hard and you can't go big, that you're like working though. So it's like a good time to
I agree.
establish what you want the launch to be.
And here's maybe the things we want in the next 5 years. Maybe we won't get them this year. Maybe we'll get 1 thing this year. But
Yes.
I mean,
I think we work better though as a group.
Yes.
And I think we help influence each other in that conversation to get that consensus.
Yeah.
So.
yeah,
I would
you have to
advocate-
listen to each other's ideas and then
Acknowledge.
go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So next month, what I'm hearing next month, brainstorm.
Yes.
But I might send out some criteria from that form. You don't have to fill any forms, but just thinking about like the criteria, and then knowing that I'm gonna be looking to ACES to kind of, we have to be pretty strict. We're not gonna, like, we've already, increased the budget a lot. We're really fortunate to get those rebates.
And that was our 1 thing this year, right?
Well, we increased the carbon offsets, we increased the messaging budget a tiny bit. Those were both small, and so the rebates were a big deal, but I mean, out of $100,000 budget to add $20,000, it's a very significant percent increase. And I don't think we can anticipate that every time.
The increase, maybe some of those things are gonna go away. Wasn't there 1 or 2 that were going away?
They have in the past. I don't think any of the things in the budget now.
Everything we have is continuing,
The
meeting our goals
minimum.
in our sustainability action plan.
The only thing that could potentially change is with that Dr. Cog grant that we got regionally, there may be rebates that come down through that, and then we could not we could have town of Superior rebates that we don't pay for through our general fund, but they're also contending with that. I mean, it's a federal grant.
Yeah, will we
And-
get that for sure?
Well, they have some of the money, it's
Could go away.
complicated is
Yeah.
the answer, and they're still hiring people and we're still working on it. I was in a meeting about it today, but it's a scary landscape for that, so.
If you
I
back
don't wanna
up a
count on
minute, I
that.
thought there was one item that was going away. That last one.
Oh, Ecotoberfest, I mean, I think
That's kinda
it
good.
might diminish a little bit, and what I think I probably would do is just, we have so many events now, we don't really have an event budget, I'd probably just make it.
And
I was
then
gonna
like-
say, that sounds like a perfect opportunity for your events line item.
Yeah,
And then
instead
the
of
green
partnering with
business
like piecemeal it.
engagement, I heard you say we haven't really figured out what to do with that yet.
Well, we do have a new economic development, or we will have a new economic development person, so we're waiting to see if
So-
there'll be some more partnership and momentum there, because that's also been
And that's right,
challenging.
yeah, and that's a ripe area that we haven't tackled, and I think we're just making
Try.
inroads now with Nikki, with the Superior Chamber of Commerce,
So, yeah, we can come back to all of
Okay.
this, I don't wanna.
I'm just saying, they aren't all
Yeah.
gonna be exactly that much, so
No.
maybe there's trade-offs, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and I think she's
We can
asking
talk about
for our
that too.
help to
Yeah.
decide what the trade-offs
That's
are.
kind of.
Or, yeah,
They don't
to decide
necessarily
on-
have to be
from your
add-ons,
perspective.
they could be.
Yeah.
Trade this for that.
Sure. I will just advocate real quick, Ecotoberfest is our one event in October that we really, you have a heavy event in April with Earth Month. And Hard to Recycle event, and then June has your National Trails Day, we have Chili Fest in July. Ecotoberfest is like our hard rock that anchors people to get into the season of holiday where 25% of our waste increases from Halloween to New Year's Day. So I love having some type of event in October to kick off the messaging. This is coming down your next 3 months in your world, in your home, in your business. Be mindful, be proactive, be purposeful.
So we'll still do a smaller version, we're gonna do the costume swap, I think we're looking
I think that's
maybe at
wonderful.
like first Fridays that Louisville does, and so we can still table, we can still talk to people.
Exactly, keep it.
It's not going away entirely, it got really out of control, where it was like hundreds of hours of work, and we're not an events team.
Right.
So one person, that was like their whole job for 3 or 4 months, and that's not, I don't think, the most efficient use of
Yeah,
our.
the pendulum swings back to something that's more.
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah, so, not going away
Okay,
entirely,
so
but I appreciate it,
I just wanted to mention that because we don't necessarily need to spend this same amount every year on everything.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I think, I just wanted to kind of, lay out the foundation
Okay.
first, so we can brainstorm
Sounds good.
accordingly next time, and then I think the narrowing down has historically been the hardest part for this group, and I get it, nobody wants to, we all love ideas, but I have to get up in front of the board and, or the council and present these, and I don't want them to like, look at me like, are you kidding,
The only group I've experienced adopting hard for is the teenagers.
Oh.
They're like, we'll just pick that one off. Like, I don't have the attachment. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a long meeting, and I was like, no, it is not going to be a long. meeting. They were like, no, we're done, we're not gonna do that bad.
I love that, actually, let's invite them in.
So-
All then congratulations.
So
We
like,
want-
nope, no baggage, let's go.
Great, maybe we all have that, yeah.
Look at
Not too
Marcia's
early.
background, I love that.
Yeah,
That's a sustainability development, for the
Yeah.
SDGs.
All right, are we on the Superior discussion? That was gonna be Nikki, right? Or?
Yeah.
Can you,
So we met with it, so Nick, tomorrow is the Chamber of Commerce's Superior event for businesses, women-owned businesses, a great event. Last month, if you remember, we approved 2 of our members, Nikki and Sarah, to attend. And then part of what the chamber asks all attendees is to submit a raffle prize. So if you were a business, you would submit something, either a product or a service of your business. Well, obviously, Nikki and Sarah are not part of a business, but they're part of ACES. And so we were brainstorming with Austin and Nikki, what could Nikki offer? And we were thinking an hour of our time, consulting time with the ACES board as for a business to help kind of roadmap, understand where they are, and maybe roadmap some sustainable actions that they might be able to take. It would kind of pilot an idea that we had, that we have a resource in town and keep it low cost. It's not coming out of our budget, it does cost our time, so Alexa could say, would you be willing to take an hour out of one of our meetings? And I don't think we are willing to take an hour of our meeting, it would be a separate meeting, I believe, or maybe we do a half hour and we kick it off, and maybe there's rebates that Miles knows about from the Colorado Energy Office that he could forward to them. So that was the idea that I'm bringing forward. The event is tomorrow, so we do need a decision.
And just to caveat, I did see Nikki today, 'cause she came to get stuff. She just wants to know if there's kind of an appetite for this and if ACES feels like they could do this, because this is a big ask, right? To invite a business in, and like, do you feel like you could give that advice? You know, we're certainly gonna be pointing people to PACE. We gave them a lot of materials. We have one battery kit left, so I did also give her a backup / alternative, just in case.
That's a great
And so she has all the ACES swag and other things. So I don't think you need to do this, but I think she was just wondering also, is this something ACES is interested in? And do you feel like you are qualified or could do that also?
What's everyone's feeling?
If I was a business, that would be really awesome too, that's cool.
And we invite them for a free dinner to one of our ACES meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can just learn through osmosis by hearing us talk.
Well, I think I would be willing, but, you know, I'm getting a little out of date. I've been retired for 3 years. But I
You're gonna
couldn't
be
even,
in Dubai or whatever, wherever you're going to next. No, that was John.
no, I'm going to
Peru.
Peru and Norway and Switzerland.
Where's Antarctica?
So much information though, you guys have
Yeah, we have
so
information.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot just being on this committee, and it was my profession.
Yeah.
We all say
But-
that from our individual.
What the resources are in Superior, we could certainly provide them with that.
Well, in
And
Boulder
in
County as a whole, yeah. I was gonna say, there's a lot of business
So
engagement
many
from PACE and
resources.
others. They're always
then-
looking for people to work with.
No.
And an introduction to the sustainability plan, so they understand what community they're buying into and what the expectations are. So, there's some of that too, it's
Are
like.
you ready?
Share.
Miles, what's your feelings on that?
I mean, I think I'd be all for it. Timing wise, it might be a little hard to do that during a normal business hour work week, depending on the type of business it is. It also is going to be one of those things that's going to be probably more applicable. I mean, any business obviously can use this, but you know, looking at a brick and mortar versus like a solo home office or something like that, we could always talk about products and services they're delivering and how they're communicating that and what's their target audience. I mean, we could go in and do kind of more like a very high level audit. And I know that you would go in and you could help with, you know, waste diversion within the business and look at their product streams and things like that. So I think we could offer it. We'd need to really coordinate on what that means, because I think we can each take an hour in doing kind of the various pieces we do. So it might just be more like, let's put together like and it could be a pilot for this, right? Put together a bit of a packet of resources for small businesses and then spend time with this one kind of walking through those resources, get their feedback on whether they find that useful or not. But when it comes to the bigger items, right? When it comes to engaging with PACE or, you know, using those resources, it's going to be more on them to follow through on that. So
Yeah.
I'd be open to doing it.
Yeah, I thought we do need to define it better.
I'm open to it too, but of course, the definition and when are we gonna do it? I think those are probably the big things.
I like that packet of
It's
resources.
a possibility the person finds it and they don't use it too.
Yeah,
Just also share that.
the other benefit Nikki and I were talking about,
Just by now.
yeah, of taking like a half hour out of our meeting. Our meetings are publicized, our meetings are open to the public. Other companies could watch, other people that have own businesses or are contemplating opening up a business. We talk about it as a way to expand our engagement
Yeah.
and our outreach. If you are getting something for free, you're not paying for it, your expectation is of value is low. It's not like you put in $100 and you expect to get $100 in return of services. So that's the one thing going for us is that
Although
Crossing.
we want it to be worthwhile, not a waste of their time.
And so I think, given the skill set and the ability to kind of give the roadmap, what Miles said, of all the resources that does exist, there's a huge knowledge gap with our businesses and what's available. And I think that's the value we bring to the table, is being able to package those together. Sarah just, yeah. Hi, Sarah. So would you be amenable to taking a half hour out of a future meeting, inviting them here, they can dine with us, and we would focus, in that time frame, we could probably come up with a template of a mini audit questions that we would ask, and maybe a little questionnaire that they would fill out ahead of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we would want to get some information ahead of time,
Exactly.
otherwise it's just gonna be a big scatter plot. They
Right.
show up and, you know, we don't know what's gonna help them out.
Right, so maybe we can brainstorm that, but then that could be, as you talked about, a pilot into
Yeah.
a future service.
I mean, even if we want to do something more casual, just go from Pat's across the street and chat, you know.
Well, and if they have space, it's always beneficial to go to their space.
Yeah,
So if they are local in Superior and have space, and I don't know if they're going to be a business that has space here, but to go to their place, sit down and have them kind of present to us what their business is and who they are, you know, trying to reach. And we can do a walk around their actual physical property too.
yeah, so we could do a questionnaire a little bit ahead of time, visit their
Yeah.
space, and then maybe do the brainstorming and presentation and ideas in a 15 to 30-minute part of ACES. Because I think there's value in learning in that. It might not take that long either, so.
So the short answer is yes, we'll offer this up. We'll take it one step at a time.
But what are,
Do you
but for tomorrow,
close the loop with Nikki?
Yeah,
Okay.
what are we?
it's just a raffle. It's just basically a coupon to come and talk with
Come
ACES
for a
and see,
meeting?
yeah. And then we can
Discuss their
help them,
business.
yeah, we can give them
Okay, because it needs to be
some good
defined.
advice, yeah.
But who's gonna be the contact name and phone number?
Nikki,
And Nikki's okay to do it?
yeah, she's okay.
It's
with
for
it.
idea.
Yeah,
Okay, so get the information we need ahead of time. I mean, like Miles said, it could be someone working out of a house, so
exactly.
or it could be real simple and small, which means that's gonna scale all of our advice down quite a
Mhm.
bit, so
Yeah,
just take it one step at a time.
yeah.
I guess your answer is yes.
Great. Okay, good. I'll follow up with Nikki after this meeting.
Okay, so now we're on the ACES 2025 events and messaging.
Okay, so, we met, Miles and Lisa and I met prior to this meeting. And we went over the spreadsheet of our messages and we added some. Because we did not have the touch the EV truck and Republic, meeting on, so we added that, and then we added the hard to recycle event. So.
Do you wanna I'm just trying to think of how you can share your screen.
That
Click on
link
the
that
link. I know, so should I just go?
Did you send it to her?
it's the one I sent, it's the Google Sheet that I sent earlier.
And I think in general, we should be putting things in the Dropbox.
We will,
Okay.
it'll go in today's, we'll make a March 2025. Actually, we'll make a general one because we don't want to have to go find a month and try to find this document. It should be a,
Um,
Did you share it after the meeting or is it?
I sent it,
She said
yes,
the link.
this week.
there's so many emails, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I have it,
and I'll-
Alexis, if you want me to share it.
I'm sure, yeah, I actually
Oh,
think.
no, I can't. Never mind.
Oh.
You didn't let me.
You might be locked out.
I was
I'm
gonna
locked out
say
from
that-
sharing.
Well, I can make you a co-host.
That's fine.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than me going through
Yeah.
all my emails.
Yeah.
That'd be easier.
Yep.
Okay,
Easy
there you go.
peasy.
Thanks, Mom.
So,
Yep.
so one of the, so let's talk about the Saturday's event. So it's 11 to 1. Lisa's gonna come for the second hour. I'll be there for 2 hours. Miles is gonna stop by.
I'll be there and Austin will be there.
And Austin will be there. So I'm still working on the one pager for the, and I apologize, I meant to have this done, for the compost. When we hand out the compost bins, we want the one pager to help people understand the best practices to making kitchen compost collection successful. And so we've got some good input from Miles and Lisa at that meeting. Specifically, I'm gonna share Miles' one idea, that I started using afterwards. And that is when you have your silver bin on your kitchen counter and you have your bag in there, I'll show it to you real quick.
Yeah.
Miles puts a rubber band around the bag because the bag falls in.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with this, so I have tested and proved that Miles, that suggestion works really well.
Oh, excellent.
So we're gonna,
Yeah,
yeah,
just bring one.
yeah, we're gonna bring it and use that.
And I
as
have
our display.
bags to give away, like one
Okay.
bag.
One bag.
Thing,
Good,
so you can show people.
yeah,
If they want to use that, they can.
right. And so we'll have that one page. I'll get it to you tomorrow. In our efficiency and not wasting paper, we'd like to print like maybe one and have it on the display in the little acrylic frame, and then maybe have 10 more. But we really want to post it on the website and send people to the website.
So we have communication standards for
Yeah.
official things, so I'll have to like run that through the town channels, not to have it at the event, but to post something like that.
Yeah, so
So
you
we
can
can-
take it and then you can town of Superior, standardize it.
Yes, and I am not working tomorrow, but I can print it here. on
Okay.
Saturday.
That would be fine.
And then I
Yeah.
redid the one pager to be where we're at now, and to answer some of the questions, like when are curb stop happening and when am I gonna see this on my bill and other stuff, so we'll have that for people as well.
That would be great. That's the
Wouldn't
one
it be nice
pager
to have
for
Just
those
like a sticker on the,
table.
no, on the bin, on the compost bin
Well, then you
saying,
have to wash it, and so I guess, I like my bin
Yes,
nice and
food.
clean
Oh.
without stickers.
or
because you
maybe a
get-
little tag on the sticker.
We
Yeah,
don't have them now, we can
We don't have
explore
the
that
time.
for the future, but
Okay.
we're
it's
too
just
late now.
a short time for behavior change. Once you adopt your habits, it's gonna be like walking and
You
learning
don't
to ride a
need
bike.
that sticker.
You're not gonna need it. So it's just a temporary transition of information
Never
to
mind.
reduce the fruit flies,
I
to
did.
reduce the smell. So
Done
Lisa
and
gave
not
us, Lisa gave us great ideas. But she's super sensitive to odors, and that's something that we really wanna be conscientious of and let people know. These are techniques by which to manage that.
So this discussion is for all 2025, so.
Yeah, so we'll move
be here
on.
For a while. if-
Right. So let's go down
So
to the
is it
next
like
one.
a theme or something you want?
Yeah, so, well, real quick, I do wanna get to the hard, cause this is March. And Hard to Recycle event is next month, April 12th, and that is
I'm
before,
planning to go.
yeah, so we have, our next ACES meeting is Thursday, April 10th. It'll be 2 days before the Hard to Recycle event. So we probably wanna know now who's gonna be able to help at this
You can
event.
put my name
I
in there,
think,
Okay,
Miles.
so
I'll
we
put-
have a separate document that we
Oh,
made
okay.
last time that I wrote down everyone who can participate, so maybe I can just send that to you and we
and I'll
can
fill that
combine.
in, yeah,
Sounds great, because sorry, go ahead, sorry.
yeah.
No, we went through the year last time, and so I don't wanna go through that
Exactly.
again, hopefully everyone wrote down what they said, but maybe we can combine into one.
Well, I'll combine it into
So I'll
one.
send it to you, Michelle.
Yeah, that sounds great. So the other things that I just wanna talk about real quick is we have the May 10th event. I think that was on that document. And I'll definitely be there, and I think we talked about, but like Arbor Day is April 25th. We are not planning on doing anything on Arbor Day. However, there is messaging that we could post on our Superior Community Facebook page that ties into our sustainability action plan. Some of the messages that are just that trees are an important element to our climate. And so if you're okay with, this is what I want your approval on, that we can post these messages in our social media as residents, tying to sustainability actions that people can do. National Trails Day, I know Park Ranger Fariom is gonna do something. She's invited us. We haven't talked about that. I don't even know the date of that one.
I think we said no. on that.
We said no on
Because
that.
Because it wasn't very good last year.
Yeah.
So I'll send you the last
list.
one, what we decided
Yeah.
last time to combine.
We signed people up for. this
The
year.
big one though, did we have Migratory Bird Day on that? I don't think we had that on that list. That has just recently come on our radar. That Ari sent to us. This is May 17th. It is all, the messaging is about how can we encourage birds in our habitat? And I think the town is the OSAC group is looking to make us a bird city to get that designation. So I just wanted to inform you on that. I don't think we have a role to play on Migratory Bird Day. I just want to verify that nobody has a big passion to participate on that May 17th day. Is that true?
I'll be out of town.
Okay,
It did help with our application for our bird city.
that
Just so
we
you know.
participate
No, I just, they had to make it, do a whole,
event.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a whole application to become a bird city.
City, right, and
Like,
having an
keep
event
your
on-
status, so.
have this
We
event.
participated in that from the sustainability perspective, but I'm
Yeah.
not advocating, it's a week after our huge
Our May 10th
mitigation
day.
expo, so.
And by the way, I think you can say the plants that you're giving away on May 10th is part of the Migratory Bird Day, because people will have those in their home at that time. And we are spreading out plants that have pollinator food for that. So I encourage you to take advantage of our day. Counts towards our participation in that event.
We'll tie all of
Because
the
it will
things
be in
together.
people's homes by then. The big other thing, we have no messaging here for the summer concert series. However, I just want to put that out to you that when those summer concerts come, there is a lot of opportunity for messaging. And I even think we got the sign, the digital sign that we haven't tapped into yet. I just want to throw it out to you to think about what can we do to bring all our messaging to people in bite-sized chunks. So just keep that in your head. If you think of something, just email me, because you might have a brainstorm some other time.
You know, the thing I struggle with this summer concert series is that it's not really a sustainability themed event. You know, people are going there to eat, drink, and listen to music. Where a lot of this other stuff, there is something sustainable in the woven in
Right.
there.
So eat, drink, and have music. How did you get to the event? Could you walk? Could you bike? Could you bring things, when you,
But there's also, if you message too much, people will go numb to it.
exactly,
And so that's where I think we
There's a
gotta
balance.
choose,
there's a balance.
you know, we gotta, and again, I'm just throwing this out there,
Right.
there's a balance.
Yeah.
So I just, and then there's also all of our time and putting this together and figuring this stuff out too, so.
And there's the subtleness, you know, we are supporting it with our green team. Michaela will have one green team member at all those concerts helping her with the sorting of the cups, the art cups and things like that. So we do have a presence at that event.
Well, I know Michaela from last year even said parking is limited, please ride your bike, please walk,
Right.
like there is some of this messaging all over the.
Exactly,
And we have the R cups there too. and stuff
exactly.
like
So that's what I mean. It's there.
Yeah.
So just want you to be aware of it. And if you think of anything that's quippy, that's kind of a neat tie-in, send it my way. That's something that resonates with you, that ties into those kind of sustainability actions that people perform on those kind of events. The biggest one I do want to talk about comes into
I like
the farm.
It's hot.
The farmer's market. I have tabled in farmer's markets for EcoCycle in Boulder, and to me, it's one of the best opportunities to reach our people. So
Yeah, those are the types of folks that could.
yeah, I personally want to have a table at the farmer's markets, and as much as I can attend, I would like to table there.
Do we have the dates on all of
I
them?
don't have the dates.
They might be in the other sheet,
Okay,
so we'll follow up and
Okay.
try and combine.
and that's not so fast, we still
Yeah.
have time, but, so I just want you to know that we have this and
This is a
thanks for
great
your
start,
support.
Michelle. It's a-
Yeah. And we could utilize this, if you get an ideas, just send it my way, we'll add this to the document, we'll put it on the Dropbox. Everyone will have access for that messaging, and if you think of any messages that you guys hear that we could help educate
The trash.
in these opportunities, yeah, we will constantly be educating.
We're gonna have a whole campaign related to
Yeah.
compost, so.
Yeah, you're gonna have we have the little bins on Saturday, and,
People like them.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's adorable, but also they can like really conceptualize. it.
Yeah, with their little trash cans and things, and that's,
Yeah,
I do
we'll
actually have a-
give them away,
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
awesome.
Alexis,
Yes.
are the stainless steel bins we have, did they come with the carbon filters for
Yeah, the
them?
charcoal, yeah.
Okay, because I want to make sure to point that a lot of people have that kind of question about smell. So that's kind of an easy look under the lid type of thing. I literally just
Yeah,
watched one
that's-
the other day. It took 2 seconds. So
Yeah. Miles, the other feedback I got from somebody's suggestion is to dust a little bit of baking soda when you reinsert it, just sprinkle a little baking soda on that carbon filter,
Sure.
for super sensitive, noses, and it really helps. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
So we keep passing these best practices on. So thank you for your focus. You know, this document exists, you know how to send
It sounds
feedback.
like I need to merge two
Yeah,
documents.
I'll merge.
Yeah, I think it mainly has maybe some of the dates that are missing on there and then who volunteered
Which
or
is
what,
great.
which will be good for everyone to make sure they can see
Yeah,
and know if they volunteered or something.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was good. ACES council dinner discussion items. So when's our dinner coming up again?
I was just gonna look that up. It's
I have it on the
It's
calendar.
April 26th or 28th. I think I'll
I
have
think
on the
it's
card.
20.
Whatever that Monday is.
It's a
Yeah,
28th.
okay.
That's
Be there.
Oh, no.
Which is, like, it's okay, I know.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm gonna be in LA, I go once a month, and
Uh-huh.
it just is when it is, so.
That's all right.
Do you have any advice for us on what?
Well, I mean, you've got, like, I feel like everybody is a champion of this work on the board. The people who don't know are like, please tell me. And then with Mike and Neil, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
If you think of anything.
Session.
Yeah, just-
Do you guys usually come with asks or is it more like updates? I can't remember. I mean, it's full, yeah.
There tends to be topics as like agenda items that ACES wants to generally discuss, and then it tends to be like kind of free ranging, and sometimes, like for budget, for
Yeah.
example, sometimes ACES kind of gets a temperature on what people are feeling of, like sometimes there's kind of an ask. And sometimes it's just like, hey, what do you guys think about water conservation and where you at? This is what we're thinking about.
I would say for this board, asking them. Sometimes I don't know how to help, committees, like what, like, would it be better to have a council member put something out there to like garner attention, not that we're, I don't know, that could go both ways, depending on like.
That's just the idea, yeah.
But is there a way that we can be more useful to you as a committee that, so especially some of those who aren't hearing everything or it's not their natural path, they might be looking for how they can support you better? And if you have an idea of what those things are for them, whether it's like socializing things or attending certain things or whatever, like they're open to like direction on how to help more. I think that
One
would
thing-
be-
Sorry, go ahead and finish your thought, Jen. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine, I was rambling.
It's hard to tell when you're interrupting people when you're online. You have to like wait for the pause. One thing that comes to mind as you're speaking, and I think that's a great idea, is to like how the board can support ACES messaging, ACES work, and the Town of Superior sustainability work as a whole. I think one of the things that just gets people is living the life, right? And being an example. So, you know, not everybody needs to do the same thing. And, you know, I interact a lot with Neil and others on like the Superior group and in the HOA groups about, you know, taking sustainable actions at home. But I think there could be some opportunities for one or two board members to become eco advisors, or like to be out there in the world and actually run that role and do a little training through the process, right, Michelle? Like getting people,
Yeah.
getting them to kind of come forth and be proud of that space and own it a little bit would be, I think, a wonderful thing. It'd be great to get additional board members besides the ones that we all see all the time, like you and Mike and Neil out there, to do that. But
I think that the one question I have to ask them, and it's based on Mayor Lacis's comment on Monday's meeting when we were talking about the maintenance. And he asked when Mike Foster pushed the sustainability, the electrification, and Mayor Lacis asked, well, isn't Excel going to the green energy? And isn't that good enough? And I could tell Mike did not have the time to answer that question there. And so I think there is some space at this meeting where we can lay out some of those ideas and how they fit in the big picture. And I think Jim's a really good person to kind of lay out some of that. Because that was the 101 class for them.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a good time to do it at this meeting.
I mean, we could do a decarb 101 if that would be well received by the board, but I think we didn't want to spend too much time on something that the majority of the board already kind of knows.
I don't think they know, so I think high level, based on this question. No, based on that discussion, it really informed me of where we can help And I think baby steps, as you're talking about, let's take this one step at a time.
I feel like that should be a presentation to the board when we
Yeah.
have that, like,
Yeah, when
conceptually, so that we understand. Cause I think some of us are underinformed about it, and we wanna be informed so that we can make more impactful decisions about it and support it, but if we don't understand it, then I don't think there's gonna be a lot of engagement, and so, I could see that being a board presentation, actually, where you take
Yeah.
like a half an hour or more to just walk us through it, so that we're tracking.
I think that would be helpful, because the conversation really veered into energy policy, like a lot. We went really down a deep rabbit hole about like what is the grid is like and like different energy
Yeah.
sources, and it was all over the place, but like really engaged and wanting information, so I think that there's an opportunity, and I plan to follow up a little bit in the digest, but even that is like, there's so much that you could talk about with this, so I think if ACES wants to do that, maybe there is even, I think there's usually like room for committees to just give
Totally.
presentation,
There
right?
is.
Yeah.
There's room for that. So it would just be like talking to Matt and figuring out like when is an agenda that's maybe not super heavy to get a presentation from you guys. I mean, we get them on like from the open space committee on the prairie dogs or like we get them or a caps like thing. Usually it's we're voting on something for caps, but sometimes it's just informing us about the events and the art capacity in the community. So it's completely appropriate for you guys to do that. And I think it would serve your desire for the board supporting sustainability goals, because for those of us that don't know, we don't know.
should we also talk about the sustainability plan update and why we think that's a good idea, or is that
That would be more related, oh, you mean at the dinner?
at the?
I think that, that would be an opportunity to talk about
as an
that for sure.
agenda item?
Yeah, so,
That's probably a good idea, because
Yeah.
there's some people that are like, you would wanna know
Why do you
early
think this?
if they're like,
Yeah.
no.
No, that's
yeah,
too good.
yeah.
And then
I can't imagine that.
I'd also like to get feedback from the board on what are you hearing out in the community? You know, what, because occasionally I'll see nasty Facebook posts and I hear some positive and negative from my neighbors, but I'd
Talking
like
about
to
the
hear.
trash content.
Anything.
No,
I mean,
Did
you
you see
know
the
about,
whole blog post now?
No.
From the mayor. The mayor's
Yeah.
blog has a whole write-up on
Oh.
all of that, so you can direct people to that. He did a very,
who did that?
Mayor Lasis
Oh,
on his
he
blog. So he asked me for a lot of information, and then he took that and everything he's heard, and he made a very
It's very
long, very in-depth post about
Oh, good.
how we got here and,
It's really unfortunate that
The
this
audience
information that
The
was.
new one or Rock Creek for this board?
it talked about the background of like, why did council make the choices that they made
Yeah.
on the waste contract? The history of waste in Superior, and then ends with the kind of Rock Creek situation and addresses some of the
good.
misinformation. So you should look that up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I'd like to-
martlasis.com.
That's.
There's some very vocal people in my
Yeah.
neighborhood about them.
They were just misinformed,
But,
and that was really
yeah.
unfortunate.
But that, not just that, I mean, I
Yeah.
put some posts on, what's with all this sustainability BS.
Yeah.
Things like that, but I don't know if that's a lot of people or it's two people in town or.
There's some frequent flyers on there,
Yeah.
just so you know, like if you start looking at the names, you might notice some themes.
Same,
And they are better than frequent flyers, right?
they are.
Yeah, so,
Like the same 10, and it's.
Yeah.
and there's people on both sides, there's people who
Yeah.
make these decisions that write me to tell me how enthusiastic there are, and then there's the people that, don't love it, so we don't need to get into that too
So we
much,
don't need
but
to get into details, but in
It does
general,
help
what
us direct our.
what is the
focus.
general
So
focus?
should
I
we
wish
and I get together
that
and
Superior
talk
would
about
be more
these?
about
I
those
just
guys,
put together
if you hear that.
presentation.
I think that.
why don't we
Yeah.
do that, and then we have time next
I'll do that.
meeting.
Yeah, there'll be one more meeting.
There's
but
gonna be one meeting, so-
The preset, an outline.
Yeah, an outline.
To throw up there and see if, get ACES's
If
input.
anything.
well, sorry, there's a lot of cross chatter, so I'm having time getting what the action item is
All
here.
right.
Well, that's good, you have nothing to write down.
So, Miles,
Did you get all that?
I think the action items are, some topics we've heard are electrification, the budget / sustainability action plan, what's a hot topic in the community, like what messaging, what can we tailor messaging more to? And then I think compost behavior change is something that I think that ACES is gonna wanna talk about. And then the action item would be before the next ACES meeting, when Jim and I meet, we'll kind of try and consolidate that a little bit more, and there'll be another opportunity for ACES to talk about this before the board dinner at our
Okay.
April meeting, to just make sure that if you think of other topics in the meantime, or anything else, we can have that captured, and maybe it sounds like Jim has volunteered to do a brief presentation or some
Yeah.
outlines of a few things,
Yeah.
so we can work on it.
I think that would be.
And Sarah, I know you had a comment too, and it's tough
Yeah.
being online.
Yeah, do we send that, number one, do we send that agenda in advance of the board dinner? And number two, I'm wondering partly what Lisa and Alexis, you guys were talking about, can we frame it around the Superior's action plan? But is it worth just like maybe Jen going back and setting a couple options and ask the board directly what they want to like get a little TED talk on, whether it be decarbonization or something else? Like we have experts in a couple different things, and I feel like having the board directly request a topic might get more of that investment.
I think that is a good idea, assuming they know what all those topics are about.
Fair.
I think if you gave them a list of like 4 things, then some of them would not know what benefit there is in hearing about this one or that one,
They
and
need to
so.
know enough to
It might-
know what to ask for.
Like it is a good idea to like tell us what you want us to talk about, but I don't know if that,
You
I
can
don't know if
always-
you'll get.
We can always produce little like explainers of these things. So like for decarbonization, like a couple prompts of what's Excel doing? Is it enough? What can we as Superior residents do to, something like that, a little explainer for each of those topics.
My suggestion would be to have this meeting, and then ACES can come present anytime, and so I think that could be an agenda item is like.
Hmm.
After this, like, what other questions do you have, or what would you like ACES to come back and maybe explore a little more in depth, because it's only an hour. So realistically, like, any of these things could be a whole long conversation, and I know ACES has a lot of things that they're excited to talk about, but I like that idea as what could we follow up with you on, and maybe they'll have a little more context based on that conversation of what some options are when we mean.
Yeah, especially after, if you do a high level presentation, that gets the juices going, and then you see, I really wanna know more about this. And then we can solicit that, priorities, for further education.
Maybe that's an agenda item.
I have
Yeah,
just
some
enough
potential
time and you won't be able to do a presentation.
Yeah.
Realistically.
No,
No, you could have,
Yeah, I don't think you will.
you could
I
have
don't-
some slides for each, but not like a
Yeah.
formal, right?
At the dinner you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, you could definitely have some prompts but they go by so fast. And if
Yeah.
there's just a few things on your agenda that are important to be talked about and not about the board getting educated right then, so it might just as for timing, it might be better to have those topics like Sarah was saying. And at the end, be like, we would like to do a presentation, or do any of these,
You have a
like,
preference.
do you prefer any of these more?
Mhm.
And even just that if people are like, I don't know what that is or understand that, that would be an indicator that yes, you would want to hear that.
Yeah, we ever give them
Right.
a 1-page little survey, like here's
Yeah.
10 topics, rate your knowledge and your desire to learn more,
Oh,
and then we take that.
I feel like the
Back
board
with
would
us.
love that, because
Yeah.
that's feedback you can get
Right.
from us that is directed and specific. Yeah.
Let's do that as an action item, that top 10, which is kind of what you and Alexis would meet on.
What, is there anything water topic wise in there you're already working on the side? Is there any updates to give to the board, or is there any board support items that you want to bring up?
I mean, I think it could be up to you. I think that we got that Resource Central grant to do Founders Park, which is exciting. We applied for that technical assistance to like that kind of roadmap for where we go. So we'll find out if we get that. Hopefully, Racing, and we're meeting, they wanted more information from us, and we're meeting with them next week.
Okay.
I mean, I think that is a priority. The biggest piece to potentially talk about is, Rock Creek Parkway is gonna get redone. Those medians, I don't believe there's currently budget to do them. And so if ACES has thoughts on like that, for example, I could see you,
Just turn the water off and throw rocks down.
I mean, that's an option.
Especially right there, but I think that our feedback on that topic, given that would be very
Then when they get
valuable.
budget the next year, they
Don't
go, make
spend
it look a
the
little
money.
prettier.
Don't spend the money on that there. It rocks and.
I mean, I know they have a really Cadillac image and trust me, the stuff they've done over here looks great. but,
Yeah.
I mean, there are cheaper options.
Well, and if ACES has thoughts on that, I think it's helpful for the like council to be as tangible as you can be. Of course, these broad topics are great, and I think that they know that
Right.
ACES cares about all of this stuff, but if you have, that's why I guess I would say, think about if there are specific asks that you have.
Well, it gets back to you know, hiring technical assistants, hiring a landscape architect, someone who's informed on this topic of low bill water, low bill maintenance solutions that can guide the town. So they aren't just taking what, you know, who's our landscaper, what Vargas says, because I still feel like there's a conflict there. I don't think Vargas should be advising us on low bill water use.
They don't do, they do the work of the landscaping. They have done the design, but primarily we use a different company for the design.
There is a different company.
There is a
I thought
different
it was the
company.
same company. Okay.
No, but I mean, like I said, we're looking at that kind of big picture thing,
Yeah.
hopefully to be grant funded, but I think that if there's specific things you want them to look at, whether that's, you know, the water rates that were brought up earlier, or the medians, or like, I think within that topic, if you have thoughts, maybe think about that for.
And it's not just the medians, it's the plots of grass along the street too,
Yeah.
those sprinklers are spraying on the street too.
Yeah, those are usually the culprit, actually.
Yeah,
Those are the ones.
yeah, that's aiming out, you know, you get the car wash, you drive down.
Drip or.
Click it and fix it.
But
Like,
they,
click and fix it.
trees, like you say, put a bunch of rocks and some trees in there. Trees are the best thing.
Yeah, yeah, alright, we're going all night.
Yeah,
Anyways,
anyway.
So it sounds like we got a lot to talk about and,
Sure.
and that hour will go by in like a minute.
It'll
I
be
just
last-
don't want you guys to overspend it trying to find out what we need, like you want.
No, I know, it's in the
We
first
wanna
half.
hear from you,
First
like,
20 minutes is eating,
Yeah.
the second 20
Yeah.
minutes. is
Well, I think
talking.
doing a little one-page quick survey, I think will help a lot.
Maybe that can be an action item for the.
Yeah, put it on an
working-
action item, because I think we have those 10 items already.
What do you mean, a survey to the board?
Yeah, one pager, piece
Or
of
do you wanna
paper.
do one of those live poll things or?
No, I think-
hold up their phone and-
I think a
So
one,
that's anonymous.
yeah, one pager as to what, I think we'll get to what we wanna get to, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can action item for the working group for next time, and then Jim, you and I can kind of. take
Yeah,
that
we'll go around
list
this
and
formalize
bring it back
the
to
bullets.
ACES.
I feel like we did this last year too. We sat down and came up with a bulletin list of stuff.
Mhm.
But maybe, yeah, we should try and find that list from last year, so we're not repeating.
We should have it, cause it's published with the agenda, we send it ahead,
Yeah, we should.
so I think it was just really broad buckets, to be honest with you. It
Yeah.
was like beneficial electrification, water conservation,
And
and trash
the
contracts.
we've done
I
a
think
lot.
that
I think
big
Mike
thing.
May did a little update and thanked them for the rebates that they hadn't approved yet.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And we got the approval.
Very good memories.
That is a good memory, yeah.
just open, unlock the, that memory box.
Oh, have we approved this?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are down to our last open deadline, and that's just action items, right? Which we kind of started touching on this.
So just as a review for next month's action items, would be this 10 items survey draft that we could look at, that we would ask the town council to fill out when we're having our board dinner. And then you guys
For
meet
potential presentations.
for future
Maybe it's not
information.
10, maybe it's.
Yeah.
4.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna set it,
You can vote.
Yeah.
People, and then you're like, I don't know,
It'd be interesting.
they're not,
Yeah.
gonna be waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be.
Are you looking at, like, I think I'm still getting my head around this,
So think about,
Like
like,
a survey.
yeah, the decarbonization 101.
what presentation are we giving to the board and when?
It's not a presentation,
Another
it's during the board dinner, we would hand them this one-page survey that they would fill out real quick on what they want to know more
That
about
night,
for future
or for
presentations.
future.
Yeah.
You can even email it to us so that
You know, to
you have the
have
results at the
Yeah.
meeting.
But the board dinners on your part.
No, but
No,
we're gonna
so
do
you-
a presentation at an actual meeting at town.
At a
council
meeting later.
When they don't have a
You guys
lot of
did.
other stuff.
There
No, I
might be
think
some months that they have, don't have a lot of items, and it will slot into one of those months.
I said we wouldn't have time for it at this dinner.
Not the dinner, I mean, I just mean meetings in general. I always hear how active meetings are.
They are, and then there'll be some that we go home at 8:30 or 9,
Oh.
and so there's always,
So
there's
there's
gonna be
opportunities.
space, like,
Okay, all right, okay, now I follow you. Just missing
things
that.
fluctuate, and then
Yeah.
we go, and then we're like, "Woo, we got out of here
Yeah.
at 9." And
I mean, like,
so-
one of the things I would
Like
like
you could ruin that.
But some of the 10 items I would like to throw on there is the cool boulder project, like you're hearing the spillover from what Boulder's doing, is that even important, is that even on your radar? Do you even care about the tree canopy, the pollinator track, like Boulder's putting a lot of time and money into this right now.
Cool.
It's called Cool,
Essentially.
it's called Cool Boulder, and they mapped out all the heat,
Yeah.
around
Oh,
the whole city.
maybe you talked about that.
It's, yeah,
Or
it's,
I
they're
did, but I didn't know
really
about
doing some wonderful work, but again, we like to follow other cities around us 2 years later.
Yeah.
And learn from their things, so like, is Cool Boulder something on the radar? If it's not, we'll know from the survey.
When we participate in things like that, I would like to make it broader than Cool Boulder specifically, just because like we participate with the county and their tree canopy
Yeah, the
mapping.
tree canopy.
And other things, which is
Yeah,
really.
you're well
fascinating.
aware.
You know, like,
I'm not aware of.
so I think, broader topics, so it's like pollinators and trees.
Yeah.
Waste, like, I think bigger topics, and they can be specific still, but Cool Boulder's like a specific campaign to Boulder, and I get wary of, we do like to follow in their footsteps, but they have $4.5 million a year and 30
And like
tax
staff
people.
members do it.
So,
right?
That's all he does.
Exactly.
they have
So to-
3 or 4 people who
That's
like,
all they
is
do.
nature-based
Did she,
solutions.
the presentation at the butterfly?
Yeah, she-
So you know.
yeah.
it's
When Lisa
fascinating.
went to the Front Range Sustainability Group, we should actually, that's a good idea. I wanted to ask if we put that on our agenda as a standing item, the Front Range Sustainability Regional Team. It only meets quarterly. But,
Oh, and he sent out his presentation, if anybody wants it.
yeah, can you
Send
share
it.
that with us?
Yes.
And Lisa attended, that's the meeting that you and I attended, Jim,
Yeah,
before Lisa attended last.
No, it was a good group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
Nice
really
people. Was that
interesting.
nice?
I think I was the only one from Superior, but it was,
That's good.
and the presentation was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was that cool Boulder guy.
That's Brett Kincaid,
Mr.
yeah,
Poole.
the staff member.
Are there any council members that go to that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
some members will
The
come
first
from
one I
the
went to,
town.
there was a council.
Westminster came, because they were,
Tanisha Adams is very involved.
yeah.
Yeah, I talked to people from Longmont and Louisville,
Okay.
and there were a lot of people from the Boulder.
There's someone that came up
Area.
from Bowman Tree at the last.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, because they wanted to form a sustainability committee like we have. And they were inquiring from a town council viewpoint, is this useful? And of course, 100% said yes.
I mean, I suggested maybe hosting one of these regional ones at some point.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like the topic and then, because they have a staff person present on it, and so far I think it's been all City of Boulder, because they're so specialized, and
Yeah.
there's so many of them. Yeah.
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 And they have so many cool projects that they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly not opposed to it, but the space and the topic and everything else.
Yeah.
Then they had a lot of food too.
Oh, yeah, they probably pay for that food.
Well, that could be a budget thing,
Mr.
or, yeah.
We could find I'm sure we could figure that out, but it's more just the topic.
And there were a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is great. We did not have this, and this is the first time they've really done that. I mean, they need, but we've never been.
Yeah.
So. I think
Yeah,
it's
it was
wonderful.
good. It was definitely worthwhile.
Yeah.
So action items, so anything else? I mean, I think for the 5 o'clock meeting, we already have the budget ideas. We need to talk about that. Maybe revisit messaging. Maybe also by then we'll know who won the raffle tomorrow,
Yeah,
and we can talk about, so I think we got plenty to cover in a half hour
do.
next time.
yeah.
And then what about the,
The council discussions, I'm gonna work out with her, and we'll present that at the next meeting.
We'll have a discussion in the meeting about that.
Yeah, we have one more meeting before that.
But I think budget, there's more to brainstorm.
Yeah.
So, and that. should
Yeah,
probably-
we were gonna brainstorm
brainstorm
a big
outside
meeting.
of this, it could save some meeting time if we talk outside of this.
We'll still do it at the meeting also,
Okay.
but it's like
get some preliminary?
it's your preliminary thoughts in order.
Yeah.
If you haven't thought about it in a month.
And also we could talk about what process we'll use to narrow down.
if you have suggestions.
Yeah, and we can write things up, like, we just,
Should we
historically,
write it on?
that's been the sticky point for this.
No, I
group.
should write on so that everybody can see and we can process, people process better vision.
And I'll send out the criteria from the form, I just had a, like, generally, what's the cost you think, generally, what's the staff lift, is this in the
Yeah.
sustainability plan already, like, thinking about things like that too are gonna be important. Cause we need to prioritize
Yeah.
all of those things, so I'll send that out from what we had before, just as like ways to think about.
That will be good.
Anything else action item wise? Shall we adjourn?
Yeah, I move to adjourn.
All right. Second,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We adjourn at 7:14, Miles.
Your
Got it.
earrings are great, Sarah.
Thanks for taking notes, appreciate it, Miles.
Yep.